Welcome to Law Firms on the Map, the go to digital marketing show for attorneys serious about their business growth. I'm your host, Kristaps Brencans, CEO of OnTheMap Marketing. Our agency has helped thousands of attorneys crush their SEO and digital marketing goals. Today, I'm sitting down with Angel Reyes, managing partner at Angel Reyes Associates. Angel has built a Texas powerhouse personal injury practice, has recovered over $1 billion for over 50,000 clients. His name is very well known in personal injury circles, and today we'll dig into his story and things what make or break thriving law firm business like his. Angel, it's a true honor having you here.
Well, it's actually my honor, and thank you for the kind introduction. I very much appreciate it, and I'm eager to see if we can provide some good content for your listeners, and share some best practices. So
That's exactly the reason why we're here, and you've been very generous with your time. Well, I think to kick things off, you've built a very successful law firm practice. And I think it'd be interesting to kind of look back and say, what has been these milestone growth points for you and your firm?
okay, I'm going to start this with some context because I think context matters. That's an old cliche that I throw around here constantly. Like, wait a minute, context matters. Give me some context. And so I will start with some context. One is that we are a 31-year-old personal injury auto truck, mostly, uh, certainly now, that's all we do. Personal injury firm. It's basically an overnight sensation, right? 31 years in the making. And so, we start with that context. 31 years ago, I was a young lawyer. I worked in New York City. I worked at the oldest law firm on Wall Street, actually across the street from the New York Stock Exchange. Out of law school, it was a unique and terrific opportunity. And so I said, why not? Why don't I do it? And they told me I was doing corporate securities and finance work. And I don't have any reason to doubt that they were right about what I was doing, but I cannot confirm that that's actually what I was doing. Keep in mind that I was 25 years old, 26, 27 years old. One second winter in, I was I have lived in some parts of the country. I had spent plenty of winters in the north. I went to the University of Michigan Law School. Those were 3 long winters. And then New York City, they're pretty long winters too. And the second winter, a buddy of mine in Dallas said, "Hey man, you want to come visit?" And I said, "You damn right. This winter's starting to wear on me." And he's like, "Well, just interview with my firm. I'm sure that be interested." At the time, yeah, at the time he worked for what was a regional Texas firm. Back then, that's really all there were. But it was the largest firm in Dallas that did corporate work and business litigation stuff. And they made me an offer, and I said sure. I'd taken the damn New York bar only a couple of years earlier, so I passed. And I was like, yeah, good. Now I'm a Texas lawyer. And about 5 months into it, I said, my goodness, the work at this firm is nothing more than a chicken fried version of what I was doing in New York. And I went, huh, let me think about this a little bit. And so I was already kind of wondering if there was somewhere else that might be better suited for me. One night, a lady came by my office door, and she saw that we had a little plaques on the doors that had our name, and my name in Spanish is Angel Reyes. And she asked me if I spoke Spanish. I said I do, and she told me about her son who'd been involved in a really bad wreck down in a town south of Dallas called Italy, Texas. Yeah, like the country. And I said, well, let me see if I can help. So I went to the hospital and he was in really bad shape. And I said, look, I want to help you. Let me go back to my law firm and ask them about, me being able to help you. And this was my naivete meeting their wisdom. The partners of the firm looked at me and said, dude, are you crazy? Some of our biggest clients are like Chubb Insurance and, like that kind
Right,
of,
right.
and
Yeah,
I was
big
like,
corporate.
I said, well, I guess maybe I was crazy. Are you guys saying no? And they're like, yeah, we're saying no. And I was like, huh. And at the time, my buddy and I, we learned a hard lesson there. And that was, man, the kind of work that we might be able to get might not really put us on the right career path here. And I said, "What, do you want to quit?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's quit and take that case." So we did the case and it settled, and we got a $100,000 fee. And we were at the time working out of his house. We went and bought some computers. We took down like a 600 or 700 square foot office suite in a building not too far from where we're at right now in Dallas, and opened shop, hung the shingles. And then I said to him, I have a feeling there's a lot more Spanish speakers that aren't being met in this market. And he's like, "You know what, dude? Go." I said, "Well, I'm going to advertise on Univision." They said, "Okay, we're going to let the Dallas affiliate do it." The Dallas affiliate um, took my $30,000, and that month we signed up like 150 cases for
Wow.
$30,000 in TV advertising, and we never looked back. We met that market and we served it. So in 2003, Texas got tort reformed. George Bush was president, but before that, in 1999, he was the governor of Texas. And when he was governor, he, along with the legislature here, passed comprehensive tort reform, and it washed across our practice pretty meaningfully in 2003. It knocked out medical malpractice, it knocked out nursing home, and those were some of the cases that we actually could make like bigger money on. But from 2003 to 2013, I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to file car wreck cases. Most of the firms that do this work prefer to settle the car wrecks without a lawsuit. And I said, I want to make a decision that is contrary to what everyone says is the right way to do it. And I believe that if we go try cases, we're going to get more value on them, and we should just file them all. So I started filing thousands of lawsuits. And by 2013, we had probably by 2013, we had at least 200 jury verdicts to our name in that 10-year run from 2020 or from 2003 to 2013. We decided we would go all in on a trial practice. From 2013 to, let's say, today, the last decade, we decided that we would focus exclusively on auto and truck cases because we had done some mass torts, and we really never made any money because we did the cases ourselves. So we turned our back on that by about 2018 and went all in on doing what we felt we could do best, and that's auto and truck cases.
You described 3 decades of your firm growing. In the first decade, sounds like the first big catalyst was the Spanish Telemundo ads. That's, first to market, got you to that big start. What about the second decade? You're kind of entered this really challenging period. Your business model changed. Now, if your advertising was changing too, what are some of the things you had to implement and decisions you had to make at that point?
Let's talk about that second decade, 2003 to 2013. We are filing lawsuits. I am not making money like for a whole year because I'm investing in all this and I'm borrowing for the case costs, and all of a sudden it's millions that we've got, in filing fees and deposition costs and mediation costs. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be a long slog. But we were successful and we stayed with it. But one of the things that happened in that decade that kind of changed the way we marketed was that by 2013, I was really paying attention to what I'm sure all your listeners are already paying attention to, and that is various, sort of key performance indicators and metrics. And I was really, looking at television and the spend. I mean, I think I've spent like $75 million on television
Wow.
over the years. And so I started looking at it and I said, are we getting the bang for the buck that we could be or could be? And I wasn't sure. So in 2014, I moved half of our TV budget over to Google. And I think we were a little early to be like all, that heavy into Google paid ads. This is long before LSAs. It was just Google paid. We had an SEO strategy, but it was like, you know, paid was we were kind of first out there, paid on auto, and we crushed it. The acquisition costs were so fundamentally different that by 2019, we had turned off television and went all in digital. That includes social, that includes YouTube, that includes, paid and now LSAs.
I want to kind of double click a little bit more on your strategies because pay per click, you'd be surprised. There's so many opinions and so many firms are against it. And, they're understandably so if you have limited budgets and not everyone has that risk appetite to say, this year I'm investing everything in advertising, in growing my firm. That's a big, big decision. What were the leading decisions you made when you guys switched going into PPC? Do you remember what were the targeting? Did you focus just on one city or you guys went the entire state? Kind of how did you guys scale up the campaign and what were those things you looked at and said, wow, this is working. Let's keep going.
We tried to focus on North Texas, but if memory serves, that was like sort of doable. This was Google didn't have those big circles that they do now. This is all kind of new back in 2014. And, they were trying to help us and we wanted them to. And so we really kind of had to feel our way through it. But at that time, the auctions were super cheap. And, we could have someone on the phone for $100, and on TV that was 1,500. So you
Wow.
can only imagine, right? So we were like, okay, let's keep trying, let's keep iterating. And Google, of course, continued to iterate their algorithms and their auction processes. And part of making a decision like that is understanding that no matter how cool it is to be a celebrity TV advertiser, your ego isn't more important than your business. And so I shelved it. I just got out of my own way and said, let's look at the data. Let's see what's up. And it was impossible to not just jump. I mean, the water was deep and warm, and I'm jumping off the cliff. And I would argue that even with a small budget, you'd be better off spending your time and energy figuring out a digital strategy than a branding strategy because branding has been diluted over the years, especially because TV now isn't really watched by people under 35. They just don't watch it. But we also, of course, have a highly focused, Spanish targeted campaigns to the extent we can legit claim expertise. Um, our ability to meet and represent and adequately service the Spanish speaking community, I believe, is second to none.
When we spoke in Chicago, I'm taking a little detour here. When we spoke at the big auto and truck accident conference, you presented a very controversial point of view, especially to everything you've said today, that the Spanish-speaking population will sort of blend in with the general population in the US, meaning the Spanish-speaking targeting will not be as crucial or as of a high potential from advertising perspectives as you've seen it so far.
I did tell you guys that, but I also I hope given the chance now that you have, I want to give a little more context because me, context matters. So the context for that is this: I have 31 years of data, and in 1999, something like 68% of our clients could only communicate to us in Spanish. All right. Since then, it is now 27%. Now, the last name may be Hernandez or Rodriguez or Reyes for crying out loud. Um, but the clients are communicating to us in English now. And that's typical. I mean, almost every immigrant wave in American history, started that way. I mean, in 1906, there were German radio stations. There are no longer German radio stations. There were also Italian radio stations. And there are no longer Italian radio stations. I mean, maybe you can find it on like Spotify or something, but as far as like meaningful, reach for that kind of media, it doesn't exist anymore. And I take the position that at some point, it is highly likely that the Univisions and the Telemundos, while they may exist, they will become a smaller and smaller piece of the larger media landscape. And I believe that our data suggests that, you know, fewer, less and less Hispanic folks need to communicate in Spanish. They're either bilingual or heck, they only speak English. And that's just what our data says, and that's why I threw that at you. That doesn't mean you should turn your back on such a significant part of a population that can be helped by lawyers that do the work we do. And that goes for almost every big city: New York, Chicago, Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. The workforce is still dominated by not just Hispanics, but many of them recent immigrants who do really need to communicate in Spanish. And so there's still a great market out there. It's just smaller than it used to be. That's all. That's what I was really saying. And frankly, when I say, like, if I could short Univision, I don't mean tomorrow. I mean, it could take 15 years for it to trickle off. But I suspect that it will.
With that thought in mind, how are you now focusing on the next decade? What are things you're looking at, and what's stuff you want to start exploring?
When your law firm reaches a certain size and scale, you'll have a few people, and at my firm, it's me and a few others that they may be lawyers, but they're really working on the business, not in the business. And you'll see trends if you get to this point, or if you want to, and you can certainly try, even if you don't feel like somebody's got to be paying attention to the business operation. And we have a handful of people here that get to do that, including myself. And what I'm seeing is that, in order to get what we call, maximum recovery for our clients, which is our firm mission is simple: to maximize the recovery of our clients. And that includes their physical, mental, and of course, financial piece. That's what the settlement's all about. And we believe if we do that, everything else takes care of itself. And in order to do that, we believe you should be prepared to file a lawsuit on every case where they haven't paid you fair value. And that means you better be ready to go to work. It's hard. It's not easy. And we have like 430 verdicts now. 430 jury verdicts. Um, and either that makes us crazy or masochist or both. I'm not sure, because it's not easy to go try that many cases. And, a third of them we got sent home with zero. Yeah, I mean, like, sorry, you lose. And that's tough. I mean, getting kicked in the teeth like that, nobody has fun having that happen. And so, as far as like the future is with firms that are prepared to litigate and try cases, and also to not be stingy about resource allocation on cases. What I mean by that is be prepared to spend money on a life care plan, even if there's only $50,000 in insurance available. Because in Texas, for us to get that, we have to have something beyond just some past medical bills. And generally speaking, we believe life care plans are super helpful. And we get them on about 90% of our cases. We don't do it for minors unless they're really significantly injured, but we do it on everybody else. And not many firms have gone all in on providing that kind of supporting, expense. They're not cheap. And many of your listeners are probably thinking, "There's no way they do it on every case. What about a $20,000 case?" Well, we have a few life care planners that'll get us, for $650, a reasonable life care plan, even if it's not a huge number. Maybe it's 80, 90 grand, but that 80, 90 grand can definitely impact, the insurance company's willingness to pay. In Texas, the minimum policy is 30, and then the next level is 50, and the next level is 100. Well, in order to get that, you better have a little more than just a bunch of past meds and a story that you owe me, you owe my client. You're going to need to do more. And part of doing more in our mind is getting some experts, especially life care planners, involved early, even on small cases.
All right. So just taking a final detour here. You have to start over, ground up, different state. You can pick any. What's your strategy? How you're going about it?
and I know it'd be a knife fight, but I would go to Los Angeles because I don't think, and I hope nobody flames me for this, but I don't think there's a lot of competent Spanish speaking lawyers that do this work at scale. You know, there's probably some good ones, and forgive me if I slandered anybody in Los Angeles, but I don't think there's any firms that do this at the scale we do it at. What you have out there are, I don't know, the Jacoby and Myers and a few other names that people are familiar with, but I don't think they're doing 10,000 new cases a year. I just don't. And I think that there would be room to get there. But if I was 29 or 30 years old, you would probably need access to some capital because it was a little easier, cheaper when I was that age than it probably is today. But if I had to start all over again and I was young, I would do it in LA.
Follow up question on that. What would be kind of ideal case acquisition number you would be looking at? Let's say in LA.
I would be looking to acquire and keep because it's one thing to sign a case, but we have a third of our cases don't stick, and they don't stick for the reasons that all your listeners are going to be familiar with, and that is no insurance. 26% of all Texas drivers have no insurance coverage. So 1 in 4 are just not going to have coverage, right? Many of our clients, they might have liability coverage, but they get hit by someone with no insurance and they themselves do not have any first party. Well, we can't help you. And so, no insurance, uh, bad facts. We trust our clients until the police report says, nah, they were really at fault. So you got to let those go too. And then, of course, there's some clients that even though we tell them, look, you get one shot, and if you have any discomfort at all, you should get properly evaluated, and that means a specialist, that means MRIs, and that means we read the scans and tell you, do you have a for now injury, one that'll go away, or do you have a forever injury where we need to go to the mats and you need to understand that in 20, 30 years, you might be heading for surgery, right? So we really, really expect our clients to take advantage of the offer, like don't, you know, don't screw yourself over. Go do this. It's no cost, no risk. And even if we lose your case, you're not going to have to pay for it, right? So go do it. And that really helps us, help them maximize the value of their case.
You didn't give me a number though.
So the number in LA to acquire and keep. So this is after you drop the third that aren't going to work. You should probably be aiming for around 4,000. Your investment of 4,000 is probably going to come back, and I think with enough cases, like 1,000 or more, that your data will support maybe an 18 and change average fee. And anybody, and if you get a case for 4 grand and you make an average of 18 on it, I think you should do it all day long. And believe me, every once in a while you're going to stumble on one where you make 500 grand.
And then you scale, that number becomes a lot bigger because signing one case versus signing 10, and then that number keeps climbing.
It's true. Basically, about 5% of our cases we believe have a value of 1 million or more. But 5% of 100 is five.
All right, Angel. Well, we're down to the wire. I wanted to give you opportunity to talk a little bit about the conference you're planning. You mentioned that in Chicago, so I think this could be a good timing to do a little early promotion.
Thank you, thank you. It is. It's great timing, and I'm going to take advantage of your being kind enough to remind me that we're holding a CLE in North Texas, in Dallas, on April 10th and 11th of 2025. We have 2 days, both April 10th and both April 11th, which is a Thursday, Friday, in early April. Um, Solid booked. We've got a number of national speakers and highly, highly respected local speakers. Um, Present company excluded. I'll have some good ones. Okay. Uh, but no, everything we got, Michael Cowan from the Cowan Law Firm. We have John Romano from Florida, a couple of local folks, Quentin Brogdon, Todd Tracy. It should be a really kick-ass conference, and we're gonna have a website out pretty soon.
Well, thank you for that. We'll make sure to remind everyone when that comes closer. We'll be there too. We're very excited. If anyone wants to reach out to you, where's the best place to find you?
The easiest way to find me is my email address. It is angel@reyeslaw.com. If you just go to our website, reyeslaw.com, if you fill out the help form, I get copied on it. I read every one of them.
Fantastic. Well, Angel, you're extremely generous with your time. I appreciate it. And I think we gave listeners some good nuggets to
Well,
sleep on.
all right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And everybody else, I hope that it's an enjoyable listen.
All right. Thank you.